Welcome to another episode of Disaster Empire Quick Views. This is the podcast where we talk to innovators and thought leaders in resilience. And this time around, I am so excited to have Lester Chng with us today. We're going to be talking about personal brand and resilience. Lester, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ashley. Excited to be here. And I would love to expand more on that topic.
Yeah, excellent. This is one of my favorite topics. So let's dive right in. You are a cyber and crisis exercise expert. And I recently saw a post of yours on LinkedIn that really resonated with me. Can you tell us why personal branding is so important to you?
Yeah. So I only took personal branding seriously over the last 16 months, and it has really helped to build my mental resilience. And I know it's a bit cheesy to say so, right? Normally people think that your own resilience comes from within. Yeah, you should have strong self-belief and not depend on external validation. This year especially, I think all my work into personal branding came into fruition or was activated when I went through my first layoff in my professional career this year, and helped to damper any impacts of that layoff. Because essentially when a company lays you off, what they're telling you is you are of zero value to the company, right? We don't need you, please. We no longer need your services because whatever the reason. And that can impact your own assessment of your self-worth, your beliefs, your belief of what you are valued at. Especially if you tie yourself dearly to your job, which many people do. And therefore, personal branding was really mental resilience. It helped shore up my mental resilience and not only damper the effect of the layoff, but it also quickly changed gears and expanded opportunities. And in fact, my self-value and self-worth went up because of that change, and that's almost purely due to the small element of personal branding.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that, especially in these times of uncertainty. And many of us are working in organizations where there are layoffs happening. There are, cost-cutting measures. Programs can be reduced, travel can be reduced, at least, et cetera. So let's talk more about personal branding, because I'm not sure everyone is completely familiar. Although they've heard the term, they might not know exactly what it entails. Lester, can you share your take on what personal branding is?
I think personal branding, I don't know why it has a negative connotation to it. Like people's like, you don't want to be talking about yourself all day, every day. You're just bragging, looking, searching. You're extracting everything for your advantage. No, that's not what personal branding is at all. I think personal branding for me is not letting your day-to-day work, not letting your experience, letting your knowledge and wisdom go to waste. Yes, it does take a bit of effort to try and extract some of that from your day-to-day to perhaps articulate it better in a way that it represents you, in a way that it deep dives a bit. Because you see, when we go to work, what do we do at work? At work, we deliver what, for lack of a better word, what our bosses want, what our bosses' bosses want. Because rightfully so, we're there to deliver on an ask. But I think personal branding allows you to take, like the word says, personal. It allows you to add your touch into it, extract that wisdom and that. Yeah. So I think the two ways which sort of triggered that journey, but also explains how I view personal branding. So, and I'm sure these are two ways that a lot of people can resonate with. So the first is, if you remember the time where you spent hours and hours on the deck for your boss. I mean, just imagine like 20 hours over the weekend, putting all your heart and soul, missing dinners and all. And then on Monday morning, your boss takes a 5-minute look at it and just cuts 80% of the information. And then he or she passes it to her boss. And he's like, no, I just want one deck. Don't waste all that. Don't put in all the information. And I'm sure everyone has gone through that. So I was thinking, okay, I just spend 20 hours of my life missing out time with my wife or loved ones, and pour research, time, effort, and more importantly, my considerations, my thoughts into a product. And this product, for lack of a better word, is going to waste. Yes, you can argue it's not wasted because your boss and your boss's boss has seen it. But how? So I thought to myself, how then can I not let this go to waste? How can I extract whatever I've learned, extract my thought process, my considerations that I put into this? How can I extract that, desensitize the information, and then share it to a wider audience? Because I think two things. One, it demonstrates how I've thought through everything, and this may not be apparent even to my boss, right? Because everyone's so busy, they just like, show me the end product. I only want to know what's the end product. Right. But through that journey, I had no opportunity to share why I put certain details in and why I didn't. So by extracting that and sharing it on my personal platform, it demonstrates my ability to develop a product, my thought process behind it, and hopefully someone who's either in direct use of the product or at least going through a similar journey, they can resonate and impacts them. So that's one. And then the second one, quickly, I was thinking to myself one day, it's like my work transcends many, many departments, right? Those in the cyber crisis space, you talk to legal, technology, cyber, you talk to so many people. And in the exercise space, you tend to talk to a lot of depth of people as well. So whether CISO, right to your SOC analyst. So I was thinking one day, I was like, okay, how many people actually know who I am in the company? And how many people actually know the quality of work I deliver? So I was thinking, okay, if I was lucky, maybe about 40 people know who I am. And maybe 5 people know how good of a job I'm doing. So again, going back to the efficiency part, I was like, how can I not do a crazy amount of work more, but share it to a much wider audience? So to me, personal branding is really being a bit more efficient with the day-to-day work, and then teasing out episodes to help best describe you and showcase what is going behind the scenes or behind my eyes, what's in my brain. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you for all of that. And I know the audience is aware that I started Disaster Empire as a personal brand, right? Exactly for that reason, because I had more that I wanted to share than I could do in my daily. And I wanted to share the thoughts of people like yourselves and be able to share peer knowledge across the industry. So thank you so much for sharing that. And let's dive a little bit deeper, because you also said something else that resonated with me. And I'd love for you to share with this audience how personal branding can be a force multiplier.
So I think force multiplier, I picked that up in the military when we operate in a task group, a group of ships. Having a helicopter acts as a force multiplier, where even though it's just one unit, it brings in a whole dimension of your capabilities and your options that you have. So likewise, for personal branding, gives you an unfair advantage with people who are not tapping into it, because you have a much wider reach. You have a intentional, I wouldn't say image or persona, but you have intentional actions towards building up what best represents you. I think nowadays personal branding also focuses a lot on the personal aspect because people relate to people, and that's how I think it acts as a force multiplier, allowing you to connect deep at a deeper level to, I don't know, potential employers, clients, peers, or anyone you're going to work with in the future. I think that is the personal part is more than the branding part, at least that's for me. And yeah, so I think that's how it allows, you see, why do people get comfortable with working with people? It's because they trust them. And most of the time at work, if especially on a new project, there's always that period of norming and forming to getting to know one another. But if you do that in your own time and your own personal brand, and if someone has a touch point with you outside of work, that bridges that trust gap fairly quickly, right? Like someone knows you, someone has seen what you're about, someone has seen you on the podcast. They feel that they know you a bit better, and they do, because we do put our heart and soul into speaking about what interests us and what our passions. So someone who picks up on that is able to relate with us, and therefore helps work, helps relations, and therefore it acts as a force multiplier for your career. Yeah.
I think that's so important for us to get to know each other as professionals, like you said, build our networks for so many reasons. And let's talk about that a little bit more, just in terms of how can personal branding, for those who might be unfamiliar with it, how can it be helpful for professionals today?
Yeah. So I think it's like we mentioned early on in the podcast, it's a competitive environment for job seekers. It's also a very volatile time for companies that are looking to continue to grow their business. So I think I started off seeing personal branding as a insurance policy or a risk mitigation tool. But I'm trying to reframe my own mind, because that is very reactive and protective, right? So I'm trying to shift it to, okay, yes, if things happen to, let's say, for example, you get laid off, your company loses chunk of business, how then do we quickly, I think there'll be a time where you use it as an insurance policy to sustain sort of certain either lifestyle or state of mind. But I think that is a point in time that you quickly pivot and take advantage of what you have built in your personal brand. So that's for the professionals that currently have a role or have a full-time job. I think it's important to invest heavily in that, so that if you do get impacted, it firstly dampens, and then you can bounce back fairly quickly. And for those with, I think, who are seeking a role, just think of it. There's so many people looking for similar jobs. How then can you stand out from, in some cases, thousands of candidates applying for that same role? So your personal brand is your advantage to the next person who has no online activity. And therefore, I think moving forward, especially on social media, the next generation is just going to be more and more in tune and in depth with the ways of social media, whether it's writing, talking, being comfortable with speaking on podcasts like this. A lot of people in, I wouldn't say your generation, my generation, is still not very comfortable with speaking to a camera, right? But just think of it, in 10, 20 years' time, the new generation of kids now are going to be so comfortable, and it's going to be the new normal for them to be able to articulate their thoughts, their desires, their passions freely on video, and in the future in the metaverse, right? So I think it's all better to start your personal brand today, because it's just going to move so quickly that if you don't have that strong base, whatever platform, whatever format it pivots to, if you're still struggling with your brand, then you're going to doubly struggle, right? With the format as well as the brand. So I think it's important to shore that up so that whatever platform comes, whatever medium, you can quickly adjust and adapt to.
That's right. I totally agree with all of that. And really, we've talked about, sharing your expertise with others, helping hopefully to make yourself layoff proof, or, if it does happen to you, it's easier for others outside of an organization to know what you're all about. And that can be helpful. Really share with us, what does resilience mean to you? Because that's what this podcast is all about.
Yeah. So I think resilience means to me, so it means how you can, I guess, like I mentioned briefly before, life is not smooth, right? You're going to be bound for setbacks and bumps when you go off course before you come back. So resilience is about how you can damper any impact and quickly position to recover and take advantage of any crisis that, whether it's an individual crisis or societal economical crisis. I think that personal brand, the initial touch dampens the effect and then quickly allows you to take advantage of opportunities. So I think most people just think of it of, I just want to survive, whatever. Just let me get through this, and they just prevent a downward spike in, let's call it self-worth, self-value. But I think personal brand not only shores it up so that it sustains the impact, but it also allows you to quickly pivot, and so that hopefully there's no dampening of your self-worth, and it quickly pivots upwards.
Great. So we've talked a lot about the importance of personal branding, how it can help you as an individual build your own personal and professional resilience. Is there any other aspects that you want to share with the audience on how it can help build resilience?
I think the network that you as part of your personal brand, you cannot be a personal brand without connecting with people, right? And that would, I think that's one of the biggest advantage of having a strong personal brand. So if you have a strong identity, people, you will find like-minded, not all the time, but you'll find people that resonate and understand what you're about. And this sort of forms the nucleus of your network and your support that, fortunately for me, when I was laid off, my network responded heartwarmingly in able to support my job search, and whether it's direct referrals. So like I had one job that came up. 5 people from that company referred me to that one role in that company.
That's great.
And it just shows you don't refer anybody, right? Any Tom, Dick, and Harry comes to you, it's like, can you refer me to this role? You're like, okay, hold on. Do I know you? Firstly, are you of good character? Do I have the belief that you are able to perform in this role? Because a referrer reflects on the person doing referring. And therefore, having that personal brand builds your network, and it also strengthens the trust within that group.
So let's flip that on its head a little bit, because we've talked about personal branding and how it's important to us as experts and as people in the profession. But can you share your thoughts on how it might help us or be helpful to our companies and our organizations?
How companies used to view personal branding as very individualistic and counterproductive to the organization's goal, right? Because like in a very linear manner, if you spend more time on yourself, by theory, you spend less time on the company, right? And it's a very one-dimensional view of time and space. But I think that's changing. There are some companies that are pushing. Was it IBM? I can't remember which company. One company I read was supporting their employees to become influencers because they realize that a strong company brand is made up of strong personal brands, and it helps to build up the culture and leads to less turnover, So, but I think if we boil it down to the individual, so you see, if personal brand can strengthen your self-worth and give you a clear identity of who you are, what you're about, what you can bring to the table, it gives you, at the end of the day, stronger individuals, more resilient individuals, and strong individuals build strong teams. And therefore, I know it sounds counterproductive, but it will benefit your company because the individual now is stronger and clearer about what they can bring to the table. They are empowered to know what they can do and be forced out of their comfort zone, and therefore be more comfortable in taking into more challenging projects, not afraid to, I guess, challenge the status quo because they have been so exposed to what is possible out there. And all these, yes, in the short term, you may feel a bit of churn, but I think if a company has a longer term view, then it's inevitable that people are going to start to place a bit more emphasis on who they are and want to bring their authentic self to work. And how can I bring our authentic self to work if I can't express myself?
Lester, those are all great points. And I completely agree that, if done well, people with their personal brand can all be good marketing, right, for their organizations because they're showing the level of expertise and knowledge that they're bringing to their companies and thus to the industry. So I think it can be a good reflection, as you're saying, on the organization as a whole. And I think in my experience, I feel like I'm a better employee because I'm always learning, right? I'm keeping up with the industry. I'm looking at trends. I'm trying to understand more than ever before than just going in and doing my narrow role, right? I feel like I'm being much more holistic in terms of what I bring to the organization from my external interactions. And I feel like that benefits the company as a whole. So I agree with you. I hope that more companies really start to look at it that way in a positive light. And like you, I've seen organizations start to support that. The ones that I think that are smart are doing that and really understanding the value of really encouraging that for their employees. Well, hey, we need to wrap, and I know I can talk to you all day. But is there anything else that you want to share with the audience that we haven't gotten a chance to talk about today? I think you have an ebook out if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I do. I do have an ebook coming out. It's titled The Essential Cybersecurity Exercise Playbook. So it's really a combination of all my knowledge from my military times running a wargaming and simulation center to my cyber and crisis exercise experience in the financial sector. How I took my...
Well, I'm definitely putting that on my reading list, and I'll make sure to link it for the audience below. Thank you so much for sharing that. Hey, Lester, how can people connect with you if they're not connected to you already? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is the easiest way to get a hold of